Radio Free Skaro!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 929. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
Warren's back from Ottawa.
Yay! Yay me.
Where are you going?
He was back. He was in Ottawa last week.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I know. Where Warren, you recorded an interview that's going to be on this podcast. Tell us about it.
Well, DG Valdron has written 3 books called A Pirate's History of Doctor Who, and they're all about fan films. And, you know, as I say probably in the interview, we are all about the deep dives here at RFS, and this is a deep dive. It goes real deep into just fan films I'd never heard of, and I fashion myself something of an expert. I got nothing on DG Valdron, I'll tell you that right now. Stuff like, just for a taster, people were making 2 years after, not even 2 years after the show started in 65, they were making Super 8 fan films. Like, that's, I'd never heard about that, but they exist, or they don't exist, but they did happen.
Yeah, that blew me away.
That's just one thing we're talking about. So there's a lot of crazy stuff in there.
Yep, all that and more to come in this episode later on. But by the time this episode comes out, Warren, you'll have sat in a theater for at least 3 hours and 27 minutes, having watched Marty Scorsese's latest epic.
I will. I wanted to. I was thinking to myself, I could just wait for it, but I was like, no. You know what? How many more Martin Scorsese films are going to be in the theater? Not that many. I should go see this.
They should have an intermission. That's all I'm saying. Bring back Roadshow cinema presentations if they're going to do that. Roadshow. I read about this because I only vaguely knew about it, but back in the 60s and early 70s, in order to try to drive people back to the theaters because they were stuck watching TV. Interesting how history repeats itself. They would create like limited release roadshow presentations for a bunch of bigger films. That they had overtures before the movie,
it's great.
And
Lawrence
intermissions. Yeah,
Star Trek
2001
motion picture has that.
It does. That's right. It would. I think they should do that for 3 hours. I look because I'm intrigued by this Scorsese film. The name of which I will always call either Flowers of the Killer Moon or Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know which one it is. Okay,
Killers of the Flower Moon.
And I look 3 hours 27 minutes. I can't do it. I can't sit.
Well, that was me in The Irishman. I'm like, I'm splitting this over 2 nights, which is what I did.
No, I bailed 28 minutes into The Irishman.
It's good, but you gotta split it up.
Yeah, gotta get an editor in there.
That's why I've yet to tackle The Irishman.
You don't need to do it. It's Scorsese makes his film again. It's got De Niro in it. Everyone's Bobby or
Pesci,
Jimmy or I mean, it's just I know.
It's a little better than you're making it out to be.
I couldn't take it, Warren. But this one seems different. Sure, Bobby De Niro and Leo DiCaprio are in it, but this seems different, and so I'm intrigued by it. But not 3 hours 27 minutes intrigued.
I like how the entirety of Hollywood quality is based on whether you're interested or not.
Yeah, pretty much. I think they're going to be. Oh no, maybe they won't be all right. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Maybe they do need my $17.95 to go and.
Well, I used my scene points, so it's essentially free.
Oh man, you bought a lot of groceries at Safeway or Sobeys.
Exactly.
I guess. Yeah.
Exactly, or whatever. I've got 22,000 scene points. I don't know how I got them, but I got them. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll see a movie for free. Why the hell not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll wait till it comes to streaming, like everyone else.
Apple paid for it. You might as well. So
yeah, exactly. A breaking news, by the way. Uncanny Magazine has won another Hugo Award. I'm
shocked to hear it.
Uncanny Magazine team, so that makes 7 Hugo Awards for us. That happened in Chengdu at Worldcon there overnight. Here, we're recording this on Saturday morning. Saturday mornings, by the way, seems to be the go-to recording day. Although that might change soon. Wink, wink. Later on, we'll talk about that. But Doctor Who was not up for any. It was not a finalist for the Hugos, so It did not win. An episode of The Expanse won the best short form presentation. I think it was up against a couple episodes of Andor and some other stuff. And I think, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
Expanse is better than Andor. So yes.
Oh, yeah. You like The Expanse. You had a podcast about it after all. But
it's excellent. It's an excellent show.
Yeah. Chris, what did you think of The Expanse? I don't know if we've weighed in on that. I know you didn't like Andor very much.
I've never watched The Expanse.
Okay, there we go. So, Warren, you are appeased by The Expanse winning the best short form.
Well, whether it was a Hugo or not is really not important to me, but it is good.
That's right. There was a listener sent in a picture from there's a Doctor Who panel at Worldcon in Chengdu, and it was about Doctor Who, and they sent a picture, and like there's a whole bunch of people from China dressed up in like cosplaying as Doctor Who, just having a grand old time. And I thought that is neat. That is really neat. This is a side of China that you just do not see out there in the public media things. Like, wow, they found Doctor Who. They adore. Like, there were some people like in Tom Baker scarves and a Sylvester McCoy pullover, and like they're proper actual Doctor Who fans there.
There was a guy in the back. I wasn't sure who he was. Just some guy in the back.
Just a random guy.
It seemed like a random guy just kind of showed up.
Just sort of walked into the photobombed or something like that. So that was neat. It was neat. It was kind of heartwarming to see that we often sort of like westernize our love of Doctor Who and stuff, but it's cool that it is spread a lot further afield than we sort of realize. So neat. It was a neat thing. Anyway, so yes, follow-up news from last week. The Unearthly Child saga, shall we say, continues. The BBC confirmed to the Radio Times that as of now, I say this because things might change. It's an ever evolving situation. As of now, An Unearthly Child will not be on BBC iPlayer when the entirety of Classic Who launches on November 1st because Steph Coburn, the son of Anthony Coburn, who was credited as writer for those 4 episodes, is withholding his permission to allow them to be broadcast. So
great, wonderful.
Yeah, so that's grand. Apparently, the BBC have contacted him again. He said so on Twitter, partially in an all caps message. And he goes on to rant about stuff. Let's just put it that way. He's waiting for apologies. He wants to do a 5-minute video beforehand where he probably wants to rant about more things. There was an interview that he did on another Doctor Who podcast that went down so well that podcast pulled the episode within a day.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of negative feedback on that one.
So, happy 60th anniversary. Did not see this anniversary year going this way. I got to tell you, this is not the celebration.
Why didn't we though? This is usually what happens.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the 50th anniversary, we got more episodes.
Yeah, but there was a lot of hootenanny along with that.
I know that, but
we sort of behind the scenes.
In the long run, we gained 9 episodes.
Yeah.
We've lost 4. We've somehow lost 4 episodes over the course of the 60th anniversary celebration. So we'll see what happens. I feel like there's. I mean, the fact that Steph Coburn tweeted out in public that the BBC contacted him again. It feels like things aren't quite finalized yet. That maybe by November 1st, which seems to be a big day that the BBC is sort of aiming for when it comes to celebrating Doctor Who, start of the anniversary month. Maybe something will be ironed out. Or maybe not. We shall see.
There's time. There's time still.
Plenty of time. Plenty of time for this to go sideways even more and then wrap itself around. Yeah. Because November 1st, we should say, since I'm on that note, yes, Chris, I'm jumping around the news list ever so slightly, but November 1st, of course, is when BBC iPlayer will have almost all of over 800 episodes of Doctor Who, classic and modern. In its archive, including the spin-offs, but also Doctor Who Musical Celebration TV premiere. The TV version of that will premiere on November 1st. That seems to be always have been a thing because RTD mentioned it in his DWM article last issue, something that he wrote in late September. So this seems to always have been the day for these things to coincide. There's also going to be a documentary called Talking Doctor Who they'll air after it on BBC4. It's hosted by Doctor Who himself for now. David Tennant is hosting it. Yeah, hour-long documentary about Doctor Who. I love stuff like that. So all of this is happening.
It's not just a song like Talking Baseball or Talking Softball.
Nope. Talking Doctor Who. Mentally and can say. I have no idea how the original lyrics are, but I do know the Simpson ones. That's
Me too.
Yep.
I don't even know those. That's how terrible I am as a fan.
And person. Steve Saxon is running with the law. Ken Griffey and his grotesquely swollen jaw.
Okay, I do remember that, yes.
We're talking Homer, Ozzy, and the Straw. I haven't seen that episode in 20 years. I still know the lyrics. So that's cool. They also posted a short interview with the three showrunners, Moffat, RTD, and Chris Chibnall, talking about the music in Doctor Who, which is kind of fun and clever, and it's neat to see the three showrunners together, doing a quick little interview. So it's fun stuff. Fun. November is going to be a fun time.
It was fun.
Yeah.
A little interview thing.
Yeah, it was. Links in the show notes. All the links in the show notes that we're talking about here at the radiofreescott.com, by the way. Even though it's... one assumes that Doctor Who will be airing in November because they keep saying that it's going to be airing in November. RTD and his Doctor Who magazine thing from a couple weeks ago said that November 1st, 17th, and the 23rd will be dates to watch, and none of those are actual broadcast dates. November 1st seems to be the celebration thing, the music thing, and the
iPlayer stuff.
And the iPlayer. 17th, Children in Need. Lenny Rush was announced as one of the hosts. He was one of the hosts last year. Lenny Rush is actually in an episode. I think it's in Ncuti Gatwa's first season. So I am imagining that there will be some official Doctor Who tie-in in Children in Need this year. And then the
trailer perhaps.
We've had trailers. I think there might be an actual
another
skit. I feel like there's going to be a thing. Yeah, I hope that's not the day we learn the broadcast dates, because that is dumb.
I'd say that seems a little late in the game, but I mean, we've just come off 5 years of Chibnall keeping everything so close to the vest that it's frustrating.
I know. I mean, here we are recording on the 21st. We're literally 1 month and 1 day when this comes out away from the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. We still don't know when the damn thing is going to be broadcast. I thought we were done with this.
Yeah, we have no One Direction. We've got
good.
Yeah,
no cinema screenings. We've got nothing.
Nothing. It's kind of annoying a little bit. The Disney Plus puts out mid to late month, the previous month, what's coming that month on their service, just like all services do. They put this little press release, here's what's coming, here's what's leaving. Disney Plus put out a thing for November this past week, and Doctor Who's not on it. Don't take that as rote. They just haven't announced it yet, because they're probably waiting for the BBC, and they probably still have to wait for the BBC, or they're coordinating their announcement, basically. Who knows when that's going to be? Maybe that'll be on November 1st. Maybe we'll find that out on November 1st. Who knows? But it's not there yet. The big rumor, and this was floating around a lot, is that it's going to be 3 consecutive Saturdays. November 25th. Yes, because it's a Saturday. Apparently Saturdays trump the actual anniversary day when it comes to broadcasting Doctor Who. November 25th, December 2nd, and December 9th is what the new topic du jour is. This is partially confirmed by the fact that the BBC Studios and Toshiba TV, unveiled a new partnership to mark the Doctor Who 60th anniversary. I saw this and I thought, okay, whatever. Your typical little Toshiba TV is the official television to watch Doctor Who.
This car is the Rise of Skywalker car or whatever.
Exactly.
Nothing to do with anything, yeah.
Despite Doctor Who being on things like that Samsung TV service and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, on every other free to stream TV. But when you look into it, I read into it and I thought, wait a minute, this is kind of telling, because Toshiba TV is giving a few lucky Doctor Who fans the experience of a lifetime to win tickets to attend in person this live interactive Q&A panel with some of the experts and creative minds who have shaped the show into what it is today. The Doctor Who Beyond the Screen, for that's what it's called, will transport fans into the universe at a secret location, a top secret London location, invite only, live streamed on Twitch, and also will be on the Doctor Who official YouTube channel. But it's happening Saturday, December 9th. Why would you do that at a secret location? Because it's probably happening immediately after the broadcast of the third David Tennant special. So that all
I would
seems to
suspect
line
that'd be
up.
the Christmas special early, maybe. But
No, it's Tennant
No.
special, and then Ncuti Gatwa will be on Christmas Day, I think.
No, but I mean, maybe they're going to show a select group of people that early.
No, they're going to show that it's going to be a reaction to the final
All right. Okay,
David
sure.
Tennant. Yeah. That'll have just aired that day. So what that means for Disney Plus, I don't know. I don't feel like they want to drop things on a Saturday at, noon Pacific on a Saturday.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be simulcast for sure. Day and date maybe, but not simulcast.
It'll either be before or after. I'm leaning towards before. I'm hoping towards
you want
before.
before. I don't think it's going to be before. My gut says BBC calls the shots and Disney kind of follows along.
I don't know. Chris, do you have any thoughts on this? Or any wishes? Because really, wishes are opinions these days. I mean,
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful that the BBC gets it first. I think that's just right and proper.
Yeah.
and not so much anymore.
If Disney Plus does some sort of like simulcast or like Australia has done, put it on the streaming service right after
All right.
the BBC broadcast, something like that's fine. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, whatever's going to happen is going to happen no matter what we think. So
I just have the opinion that Disney, it's not as big a priority for Disney as it is for BBC. And BBC is probably a little more controlling than we think they are about this.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Disney's gonna prioritize their own, rightly so,
Yeah, and
prioritize
they
their
should.
own stuff
Yeah,
because that's
absolutely.
that's what lines their pockets more than Doctor Who ever will.
Exactly. Did they sign on for this big thing? Did they kick in money for this big thing just so they could put it on a Saturday night? I don't know. Saturday night is...
I mean, obviously, things differ from one series to the next. But I think back a few years to Disney Plus, say Mandalorian, for example, where it drops at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Which is silly for a North American market,
Right.
Yeah.
and that's their primary market. Versus Ahsoka being shifted over to late in the evening,
Which makes sense.
which is a little more reasonable.
Yeah.
Loki
too. Isn't Loki dropping at
I believe so, yeah.
5 p.m.
Could be.
Pacific or something like that? Yeah.
Not too sure, but it could be. But I mean, let's say Doctor Who goes out on BBC One at 7 p.m. UK time. That's noon for us. So if Disney Plus did a 6 p.m.
Yeah, I can
release
see
or
that.
something, that's I think that's within the realm of possibility.
On a Saturday though, that's the part that
What
gets
is
me.
You're getting hung up on the day of the week. This
I
is
am.
streaming. Does it matter?
Yeah,
You're
obviously,
going off past Disney habits, I think, more than anything else,
obviously,
which I am too.
Yeah,
But,
obviously it matters something because they're not dropping stuff on weekends. They're dropping it midweek. I think they realize there's chatter to be had about it.
I mean, insofar as are they going to wait till a Tuesday afternoon? No.
I doubt it, but who
Probably
knows?
not.
We'll see.
Are they going to drop it early? Will it show up on iPlayer the same day? Will it be there on iPlayer and it will just be broadcast? Probably not. Probably RTD's probably going to fight for Saturday nights again because it's 2008 all over again. Apparently.
Well,
Also, this is
I
BBC. Who knows? They're not going to do anything that's good for them. They usually screw something up.
I know.
I think you're right, Stephen, insofar as much as broadcast TV is less important than ever before, and as much as broadcast TV ratings are less important than ever before, all that kind of stuff, the BBC still has its role, still has its place, and there are, I'm sure, more than enough people in the BBC or third party watchdogs, whatever, that are as invested in ratings and viewing figures as ever, and they're still going to want if they can snag that primetime Saturday sweet spot, then of course they're going to want to take it.
Which it is in the UK, just not here. And and on the Disney Plus side, and much as I hate to talk about spreadsheets and raw business,
Right.
that's what they're going off of, and those are numbers nobody but Disney sees, and so they're probably deciding Loki drops at 6 p.m. on a Thursday or whenever it is, based on what they're looking at in their numbers, right? And so that's what they're probably going to go off of for Doctor Who as well. Where does this fit in with the overall thing we got going here?
And also, you think of, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Loki, whatever. These are all weekday drops as well.
Yep.
The Saturday drops are pretty rare or pretty unusual for Disney Plus. So why not throw Saturdays into the mix?
Also, besides that, we're talking about Ashoka and what's the other one?
Loki.
It's Loki, yeah, the Marvel stuff and the Star Wars stuff, and Doctor Who. As off, they're all equal players here, and Doctor Who is not. Much as we want it to be, it isn't. So
no, it's so far down the ladder relatively.
Is it lower than Percy Jackson's TV show that might not get made? No, but it's definitely not up there with Star Wars and Marvel in terms of what Disney cares about. They didn't shell out $5 billion for this thing.
Well, we don't know how they care about it. That's the interesting thing. Like, we don't know yet because they haven't, made it official. They've announced that it's coming. They've announced, they had Ncuti Gatwa on ABC-owned morning TV to announce the fact that Doctor Who is coming. So obviously they're putting something into it, but that's sort of been the last thing. Literally like a year ago, it was October 24th that this happened. And we don't yet know what kind of attention is going to be paid to Doctor Who on Disney Plus. How big of a splash is it going to be? And I'm still not sold on the Saturday thing, because Saturday is a dead time in North America.
I see where you're coming from with that.
Why not try to change
it's sports? It's college football. That's what they do, and which is like I think college football is like an ESPN thing. I'm not sure. Which pretty much wraps up by the new year anyway, with and the bowl season and everything. But I just don't feel like, let's try to turn Saturdays into a thing.
Yeah, and you're right. In the UK, it is a way bigger deal than it is here. Now, I would like to praise Disney Plus, because no matter what they do, they won't be CTV Sci-Fi or Crave. So
that's true. They won't be crammed awful commercials into things, which will be wonderful. They won't they won't be kicked around like a football.
Wrong aspect ratios.
Wrong aspect ratios. But I'm disappointed that it just feels like, we're also, RTD's bringing back Phil Collinson and Murray Gold and David Tennant and Catherine Tate. And it's like, okay, everything seems like it's 2008 all over again, but hopefully not everything. But like this insistence on being on Saturday nights, where it's going to get like 3.5 million overnights, because that's what overnights get these days. And just to be kicked around in the British press again. It's like, Doctor Who is not as popular, only got 3.5 million, despite the fact like the top viewed program of the night will be like 4.9 or something like that, which is pitiful when you compare it to 2008 numbers. It bothers me that they're still, in this day and age, just beholden to that broadcast slot.
When you bring the gang back, you got to take the poop with the sugar on that one. But also, Stephen, you wouldn't be a Doctor Who fan if you weren't pre-disappointed.
Oh, I suppose not, but I just hope it's not the case. I mean, part of me was, all this time that I was beating the drum for the 3 episodes and 3 nights on Disney Plus, because it felt like a natural thing. Thanksgiving weekend, it's probably not going to be that anymore. There's a Santa Claus's movie coming out on November 23rd, according to the Disney press release. So that ship has sailed.
I was doing random Google searches for like UK 2023 viewing figures sort of thing. Just because I'm curious, like, what things are getting, because outside of Doctor Who, we don't tend to look.
No.
So there's this thing from Ofcom, 3rd of August, it's dated. The title is Media Nations 2023 Latest UK Viewing and Listening Trends Revealed.
All right.
There's some summary bullet points at the outset. First of which says, broadcast TV's weekly audience reach sees steepest annual decline since records began.
Right.
While older audiences' daily viewing drops at fastest rate ever. Next bullet point. Number of TV programs pulling in 4 million plus viewers halves since 2014.
Jeez.
Wow.
But public service broadcasters still dominate most watched list with valued national TV moments.
It's those moments that they're chasing. They're still chasing those moments, apparently.
Well, this is just like your love of sports. Like, sports used to be the big money driver that still keeps broadcast going, and all those rights are kind of wrapping up in a couple of years, and who knows where that's going to go. So
that's true.
As competition for the nation's attention intensifies, Media Nations 2023 finds that the proportion of viewers who tune into traditional broadcast TV each week has seen the sharpest ever annual fall from 83% in 2021 to 79% in 2022.
Okay, I was
BBC One remains the only channel to reach more than half the viewing population every week.
Wow. Yeah.
So, I mean, they're in the right spot.
Yeah, but what's the average
On BBC
age?
One.
Oh, it's like 60, I think, isn't it? Isn't the average age of the BBC One viewer now 60 years old? Like, that's what Chris Chibnall told us at Galley last year. And
Could be.
I think I saw it in a report from the BBC press office as well, not too long ago. I might be quoting something, but like,
our data also suggests that older viewers are diversifying their viewing and becoming more likely to take up streaming services, although household take-up of these services overall appears to be plateauing. And the proportion of over 64s subscribing to Disney Plus, for example, increased from 7% in 2022 to 12% in 2023.
Wow.
I think I'm going to put this in the news list here.
Yeah, do it.
Good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I would just worry that Doctor Who's going to be, where's it going to be? Before or after Strictly Come Dancing? Oh, I guess it's going to be no, it's going to be before, and I'm going to wait for, what's ITV going to put on? Oh, who knows? They're putting on a movie. They're putting on a second Mission Impossible movie opposite Doctor Who. Oh, we have to schedule it 5 minutes earlier now. It's old. It's old and it's outdated.
Armchair quarterbacking you're doing here, though.
Yeah, well, we seem to be leaning towards that, Warren. This is why I'm kind of railing against it. That's all.
So there's this thing also has a top 10 most watched programs in the UK.
Okay.
Highest performing episode per title from 2022.
Right.
So the top 10, each of them has at least 10 million viewers.
Right.
Number 1, FIFA World Cup, England versus France, quarterfinal.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
Number 2, State Funeral of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth
Also
II.
makes sense.
R.I.P., yeah.
Number 3, the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
Okay, there we go.
Number 4, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. So that's the first regular thing.
My God.
And then 10th place at 10.1 million viewers, The Thief, His Wife, and the Canoe. That's
wow. Eddie Marston thing. Yeah, it's a TV show. It's on BritBox, yeah. 10 million for that. My God, wow.
Strictly was 9th place, 10.7 million.
There we go.
Women's Euro, England versus Germany final, 11.2 million.
Yeah.
And then Happy New Year Live. And
Well,
but yeah, Strictly and I'm a Celebrity are the only two that I recognize as regular broadcast TV staples.
And they're kind of like live reality stuff, like this is what it's
the
either
kind of
live.
You have to,
it's
the kind
news
of stuff
events,
you have to watch or you lose out.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to find the "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here" box set. You're not going to find that. You're going to watch it live.
Although I'd like to find a person who buys that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I've said this before, we put so much importance into this show. The average viewer couldn't care less, maybe forgot about it. That doesn't matter to most people. We just forget about that because we're so basted in it.
That's true. I do find it kind of commendable that Doctor Who does chase the mainstream. Unlike any other show that it's in its genre, so to speak,
the mainstream also shifts to a point. For this
has.
thing here, still citing the same thing. The largest declines in weekly reach have been among 16 to 24s.
Yeah,
from 82% in 2017 to 54%.
Wow,
in 2022.
That is a drop.
That's a drop right there.
And children aged 4 to 15 from 87% in 2017 to 60%.
That's your target audience right
in
there.
2022.
You just nailed your 2 target audiences right there if you're making Doctor Who right there,
Yep.
Right there.
Yep.
Although BBC One continues to have the highest weekly reach of all TV channels, 58%, this is 12 percentage points lower than in 2017.
Wow. Yep. Doctor Who coming back Saturday nights opposite, Ant and Dec.
There's another one.
Right.
There was an even sharper drop, 82%, in the number of broadcast transmissions generating more than 6 million TV viewers. From almost 1,200 in 2014 to 200 in 2022.
Jeez, that's cataclysmic. What was the number again of achieving how many viewers?
In 2014, it was 1,172.
Of what figure? What viewing figure? 6 million.
There's an even sharper drop, 82%, in the number of broadcast transmissions generating more than 6 million TV
that's
viewers.
Right, yeah, 6 million. 6 million. 6 million. Remember that 6 million used to be a low back.
That was nothing. You get canceled for 6 million back in the old. I mean, back in the old days, I mean like the 80s or 90s.
Yeah. So those are the numbers we're chasing, eh? Those are the numbers we're chasing by sticking to Saturday nights. I mean, if they want to broadcast on Saturday nights, so that those few families that still gather around the TV on Saturday nights and watch Doctor Who, fine. I just hope that they don't rely on that and have that be the centerpiece of their entire.
This just struck me though. We're looking at old 80s stuff as kind of the template. In the 80s, you had to go back to before TV existed, to the 40s, in the time scale we're talking about, when radio was a huge hit, when millions of people were listening to it.
Right.
So this stuff just changes, and there's not a lot you can do about it. Like, it's going to be phones or whatever. Like,
yeah, people watch it on their phones too. There's that aspect too. I mean, we all watch it on nice TVs. There's people that don't. There's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah.
That will
and
watch
that's
it.
fine. That's up to them.
They will watch it when they watch it. And I guess we're still waiting to see what Disney wants to plan to do it. Will they drop it early? Will they drop it late? Will they drop it at the same time? We will find out in the days and weeks to come, I guess.
Also, I find it highly ironic that 3 middle-aged people are railing against slightly older middle-aged people doing things.
I know. We brought up a whole bunch of stats. We are here to bury stats, not to praise them. I want to point
these are
that
actually,
out.
for once, I was interested in these stats.
That's
It won't happen again, so,
No.
I texted you guys that Ofcom article.
Yeah, I saw that there.
You haven't seen.
Yeah.
Any guesses on what the most watched special event in UK history is?
Strictly something or other.
No, special event.
Special event. It's got to be Charles and Diana's wedding, 1981, July 29th.
That's number 7.
Number 7.
Is it the funeral of?
Is it something
Queen?
royalties? It's either a wedding or a funeral. It's got to be that, right?
Funeral of Diana, number 2.
Number 2.
Okay.
Number
What's
2 on
number
the
1?
board. Yeah. All right.
Number 1, 1966 FIFA World Cup final, England versus West Germany.
R.I.P. Bobby Charlton died today, by the way, playing on that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Oh,
died. Yeah.
that's sad.
No idea what any of that means.
I know. Yeah.
Although, I don't wish ill on this guy.
No. Well, you don't have to. He's dead.
I suppose not.
Yeah. I do.
Of the top 10,
that's still
of the
number
top
1.
10, of the top 10, 3 of them are football related.
That's insane. 1966. I mean, half the population lived in the UK at that time. They're all watching that. Wow.
Yep.
Well, 32.3 million is what it says for that.
That
And
is
the
madness.
population in 1966 would have been so much lower than that.
Jeez. Yeah. I think it's all over. It is now. It's 4.
54.5 million in the UK, in 1966.
Basically 2/3 of the country are watching that. That's insane.
Yeah. Versus right now it's 67, almost 68 million. So about 13 plus million difference.
We have to go back. 3 channels. Come on, let's do it.
We have to go back, definitely.
That's one way to get 6 million plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's absolutely. Also happened today as we record this, the BFI event for Underwater Menace. They premiered the new animated 4-part version of the Underwater Menace. They also announced at said event that more animated recons are coming. Yay! I mean, that's kind of not surprising given that they put all this. Nobody knows who's fronting the bill yet. That's something I haven't been able to find out.
Is it Disney? That's what I wonder.
It really is.
That seems so unlikely.
Yeah, it seems very unlikely. I don't think Disney has anything to do with this. They found money somewhere. Who knows? A mysterious benefactor.
Crypto.
It's not being
NFTs.
finished to our knowledge. So
Yeah, it's not the people that we usually know of. So I don't know.
Turn to crime.
Maybe it's Brett. I have no idea. Who's they made such a big thing that BBC America pulled their funding, and they said, "Well, we can't make these anymore. Now we're making them again, but we don't know who's paying for them." I just find it odd. That's all. Not suspicious.
Steph Coburn. He's paying for it. An ironic twist.
He's footing all the money somehow. That'd be funny, but no. Also, the Doctor Who Annual is coming. The 2024 Doctor Who Annual is coming soon. They officially unveiled the cover for it with David Tennant's 14th Doctor and Ncuti Gatwa looking quite smarmy in his big long leather coat version of his costume.
He's allowed to look smarmy.
Damn right he is. So the cover is for that. I don't know when this thing's coming out. I've already forgotten when this thing is happening. Apparently it's already up. September 7th says published, which is odd to me. And why would they just unveil the cover if it's already been out for 2 months? I think it's wrong.
Penguin's website does not say, does it?
No. Well, it does say. You go to details.
November 2023. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The Penguin website actually says published September 7th or July 9th, 2023. I don't think it's either
7th of September.
Yeah. Which is wrong.
Yeah, I don't know why they're pimping out the because it was the BBC's Twitter account that was kind of
The post
pimping out the Shooty Gatwa thing.
Yeah, the official photo and
for
everything.
the cover.
Yeah. They wouldn't do that for a magazine that's been out for almost 2 months.
That does seem silly, doesn't it?
Who can tell? Maybe they're waiting to see the overnight figures for the release of the photo. There's a Doctor Who exhibit, 60th anniversary exhibit of Doctor Who at Riverside Studios. Riverside Studios, of course, was a home for Doctor Who for a few years in the 1960s after they moved to Lime Grove. And so there's a big exhibition there with like exhibits, Daleks and stuff, and other things. I saw Andrew Smith post about it on Twitter. He was walking by, I think the day before it opened. There were like Daleks in the windows and stuff. And so, but now it's officially open. So you can go check out a free exhibition with unique photography from the BBC's vast photographic archives, including seminal images of Doctor Who at Riverside Studios. So that's neat. I'd like to be in the UK sometime, just to walk down the street and says, "Here's a big giant Doctor Who exhibit that to check out."
Almost makes up for Brexit.
Almost, Warren, but not quite.
No,
not quite. Hey, we mentioned this last episode I think it was that a pre-order link for Dominic Lynn's the Survival Remixes EP was going to be coming this coming week. It has now arrived. You can pre-order Dominic Lynn's Survival Remixes on all the places: Deezer, Amazon Music, Tidal, Spotify, and of course iTunes and Apple Music. I've pre-ordered it on iTunes. It's like $5. Buy it, people. It's nothing. Buy
Super
it.
cheap.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Deezer.
I have.
Sounds like something from Fraggle Rock, to be honest with you.
A teaser from Koosbane or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but you can get it there. So anyway, pre-order. I did. It's great. I'm looking forward to it. I love all his remixes for his stuff. So
Deezer is French, apparently.
There you go. Get in France. People in France like Doctor Who, probably. I mean,
Daily Motion used to host a lot of Doctor Who that it shouldn't have. So yes, people in France do love Doctor Who.
Yeah, it used to be the unofficial homepage of Loose Canada, I think, too. But anyway. Hey, this is exciting. So next Sunday, we talked to Tim Burrows from Missing Episodes podcast a while back about this, but the Film is Fabulous Festival, which is happening this coming Sunday, the 29th, which brings a whole bunch of UK film collectors together to celebrate film and archive film and stuff, but also to sort of convince some of these older film collectors to maybe, hey, let's make sure your collections are looked after properly. Steve Roberts is going to be there. He's going to be on a panel. I saw him post about that on Facebook. The restoration team's own Steve Roberts is going to be there. They also teased in a couple weeks ago that they are going to announce at least 20 different finds from archive television and film coming up. And they've announced 3 already. 3 episodes of British TV from the 1960s, that being an episode of Sykes. I've never heard of it. Sykes and a Marriage. That's from 1961. The episode of Hugh and I, New Year's Resolutions. I think that might be the one they previously announced. And then Mogul, or might be another one. And Mogul, an episode of The Troubleshooters. I don't know. I'm just reading this straight off the press release. I've never heard of any of these shows, but it was broadcast in 1966. And they've all been found.
A great opener, as far as I can remember.
Which does, sorry? The Troubleshooters?
Troubleshooters. I think I remember seeing that, and it's just a very 60s kind of an opener.
I don't know, Warren, but 3 missing episodes of British TV have been found thanks to this Film is Fabulous initiative. So very interested to see what goes down at this convention gathering next Sunday. That will happen pretty much simultaneous or just after the release of our RF episode, but after we've recorded it. So we won't have anything on next week's episode about this, but we will on the week. It is literally happening the furthest amount of time you get after a recording of RFS before our next one. But so it'll seem like old news by the time we talk about it. But hopefully there'll be some interesting stuff to talk about. The Film is Fabulous event up in Leicester, or if you will, Leicester, if you want to pronounce it wrong.
Nope.
If you want to do it wrong,
don't do that.
I do want to pronounce it wrong because that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, I know you do, Warren. That's fine. Yeah. Last bit of news before the interview. Vicki is back in the TARDIS. Maureen O'Brien is reprising her role as Vicki for the first time since 1965 in a Big Finish set, new 6-part full cast audio adventure called.
You're just completely dismissing the season 2 Blu-ray trailer.
I totally am, because I totally completely missed it. I see what you mean. I thought you meant in the news list. I am. I was gonna mention it. Because
pretty sure. Well, okay, she was Cressida there.
She was Cressida.
Very important distinction.
Yeah, she was back in that. I was going to mention that basically it's because of that Blu-ray trailer is why she's back now. This is amazing. Pete McTighe is creating work for everyone by writing these things.
Good.
Yeah,
well, I mean,
absolutely.
hell, we have 3 David Tennant, Catherine Tate specials because of lockdown tweet.
I know.
Yeah.
So.
Emily Cook saved Doctor Who. This is quite something. Fugitive of the Daleks. Of course, Stephen Noonan, who plays the first Doctor in these with Vicki. Vicki's back. That's amazing. It's coming out January of 2024. That's good. I think Maureen O'Brien has sort of held Doctor Who kind of at arm's length a little bit, and she sort of did back occasionally. She was at a Gallifrey 1, I think, a few years back. But she's, not been quite with it, but I think she's sort of come around to it, and maybe the reaction and how much fun she had sort of revisiting the character, no matter, how briefly it was in that season 2 trailer, as Chris alluded to. Maybe that's just said, you know what? Let's play a 17-year-old again, even though she's probably in her late 70s or early 80s.
As she says in the blurb thing, up to now I've always played Vicki at the age of 15. Which was the age she was when she first met the Doctor.
Yeah. How will it be now? Who knows? Find out.
I never thought of her as 15.
No, I thought it's like 20 or so.
Maybe 17, 18, 19 kind of thing. But
yeah, well,
that's the whole Coquitlam situation on a new light that I don't like very much.
It kind of does. I like to think that, let's just pretend she's 18 or 20. Same goes to Susan. Susan is at 20. She's just, because, both actors were in their early 20s, so.
Never got the impression Kukilian was like, lusting after
No,
her
there wasn't
like
anything
that,
to it.
No, he's just a monster.
It was definitely more avuncular.
Yeah, despite the name. Let's not dwell on that.
Let's not.
Let's instead, Warren, dwell on your interview with DG Valdron, all about Doctor Who fan films and the inspiration that they put forth into the world. So here is Warren's chat from Ottawa last week with DG Valdron.
I'm here with DG Valdron. He's the author of many books, but ones we're going to talk about is his 3-part trilogy, Pirates History. Actually, it's Pirates Unauthorized History of Doctor Who, right?
I think it's just the Pirates History.
Pirates History.
Yeah.
And there's 3 of them. One is the final one, and then the middle is another one. And they all cover fan films. And as far as I know, nobody else has done this. At least not to this extent, anyway. So I've only read the first one, or parts of the first one, but let's start, something that surprised me, and I know more about this than a fair number of people, is that there are people making Super 8, I was going to say Super 8 videos, that's not accurate, Super 8 films in the 70s, while Doctor Who was in its heyday.
Yeah, the first Super 8 films that I can track back came out, I think, in 1965. And that's incredible. I mean, the Super 8 film format was only invented around 1963, 64. So pretty much the minute somebody could make a home movie, they did. And that's kind of wonderful when you think about it. It was the first time that people were actually allowed to access narratives. I mean, before this, we had film, of course, but it's 16 millimeter, 35 millimeter. You had to have a lot of technical skill. You practically had to have a film crew. If you were loading film professionally, you actually had to do it in a darkroom. But now with the Super 8 format, what you had was just a handheld camera, almost like a phaser, and the film came in a cartridge. You popped it in, you popped it out, and you had 2 minutes of film. And it was originally for, family occasions, trips to the beach, weddings, children's birthday parties. And it quickly evolved past that. There was an entire culture that emerged, or a subculture, of how to make Super 8 films, how to shoot, to edit. You started to get sound. You began to get accessories. So people began to make or buy tripods, lighting systems. They experiment with stop motion, with filters. There was a massive culture of Super 8 that was going on through the 60s, especially the 70s, the 80s. There were books, there were magazines tailored just to that. And so, for enthusiasts, Doctor Who was one of those things they did. And there was all kinds. People made their little Super 8 westerns. They made Super 8 James Bond movies. There were even Super 8 horror movies. A few of them actually made it into the DVD world.
So am I right in assuming the Super 8 was just color? I don't recall there being maybe there was Super 8 black and white, but because
No, it was just color from the start.
yeah. So these are the first Doctor Who's in color, actually, even though they're not official.
Actually, yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about that. The first Super 8 Doctor Who was done by, that I can find, what dates back to 1965, Son of Doctor Who, was these two kids out in Scotland or someplace. And they were making all kinds of little home movies. So they were like, I talked to one of them and he was going, yeah, we were making Ken Russell films.
Wow.
Wow.
That's surprising.
Did your parents know what you were up to?
No kidding.
Yeah.
What kind of camera? Actually, don't answer that.
But they made their own little Doctor Who epic, 15 minutes long. And when you consider that, the entire cartridge would only give you 2 minutes.
That's a lot of cartridges, yeah.
Yeah, not just that, but they had to edit them together, so they were hanging them on little clothespins and stuff. And I haven't seen it. It still exists in a garage someplace. But, they had their sister play a robot, and they built a robot costume out of margarine tubs. And, they're kids. And I'm thinking this is not a sophisticated work, but it probably had a lot of charm.
And it's work. It's stuff people put time into.
It's a lot of that. And it moved on. When Doctor Who started forming an organized fandom in the 1970s, you had, I think, Keith Davies at the first convention doing this 3-minute Doctor Who cartoon, the first Doctor Who animation ever. And you can find that on YouTube. It's Doctor Who or something, HOO.
Right.
And there were a few others like that, Dial D for Dalek and stuff. And yeah, it's not bad animation. I mean, these young people putting a lot of time and effort into it, hand drawing every still. And there's a lot of fanish in jokes, but it stands up quite well today. And as the community evolved, as people came together in little fandoms, fan groups, fan clubs, as there was a national fan organization, suddenly there was this critical mass of people who could come together and go, okay, I have a costume, and we can make a TARDIS out of cardboard, and, we've got some locations that we're around, and we'll get a crew together and get people to do it. And so you had some guy, Mark Sinclair, doing his attempt at Doctor Who epic, Ocean in the Sky, which went about 70 minutes. So, the third Doctor Who movie was like a little fan production.
Yeah.
A lot of these are lost to us today. And for the obvious reasons that a lot of the Super 8 stuff that was created back then through the 60s, 70s, all these home movies. All
degrades, right? Yeah.
Not just degrades, but, the format gets replaced. For some people, there was enough value in it that people actually upgraded to their Super 8s to VHS or digitized them. But a lot of this is lost, and I think there's a tragedy to that because there's a lot of human historical reference. The pictures of your grandparents, right? The pictures of my mother at her wedding. A lot of that just falls by the wayside. We lose information as we switch from one generation, one medium to another. And here's the thing. Here's what I love about the fan culture that created all these Doctor Who fan films. There's no money in it.
Yeah.
They just do it for love. And they're doing it because they enjoy the material, they enjoy the medium, they enjoy the stories and the kind of stories, and they want to go out and create it themselves, to create something. And maybe in many cases, they're not that polished, they're not that professional. Some of it, a lot of it is completely terrible.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But all of it is done with love. All of it is done with this creative impulse. And for no other reason, there's just, as I said, no money in it. But you know what? I think doing something for love is probably the best reason there is to do anything.
Probably, yeah.
And doing something to embrace creativity, not just to sit there and watch something on television, but to actually go out to write, to create, to try and do something. That's the essence of what makes us human.
So let's go to something that is really good. The Wrath of Ukor, which was shot on 16mm, which, you've got a whole history of it and how it came about and how it's the first woman doctor, literally, I think 30 or 40 years before there was a woman doctor officially.
Yeah.
So let's go into that because you have very high praise for it and explain how it's a professional production that you argue is probably better than what Doctor Who was doing at the time.
Well, The Wrath of Ukor was a Doctor Who film that ran about half an hour, produced by a group in Seattle, and it was shot on 16mm. They got Barbara Benedetti to star in it, and she was actually a real actress. She'd starred in a 6-year run of Desperate Housewives. She'd done a year of Desperate Housewives in Chicago. She was known as a playwright, a director as well, even a musician. And her partner in this, Randy Rogel, was also in Desperate Housewives. He eventually went to Hollywood, and he won an Emmy.
Oh, okay.
For Animaniacs.
Wow.
Of all
wow.
things.
That's a little out of nowhere, but okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have predicted that, but what the hell. So what you had at the core of this was a few people who actually were real actors. You had a young filmmaker who, was committed to film, and they decided to make the most of it. And it looks really good. It's shot on 16 millimeters, so the real show was shot, on
video by that time.
That time. They're using the rainforest outside Seattle, and it's lush. It's gorgeously lush, and that's almost a character in itself. And they found some of the older areas of Seattle to shoot in, so it passes for like 19th century England. And they really worked on the script, and it's clever. It moves quickly. The performances are good. Barbara is really kicking it out of the park. She's the doctor from the moment she walks on the screen.
I saw it in the 80s as a teenager, and you're right. You're absolutely right. You absolutely buy she's a doctor from the word go.
So there's no hesitation on that. And, 30 years later, it's still holding up. Barbara was the first woman to play the doctor, and she played it several times. So she did the doctor through Visions of Utomo, which is almost as good. Maybe in some ways it's better. I think they switched to a standard commercial video format for that one. They were trying to build sets, and the sets are kind of tosh. But if you get past that, it's really sharp. It's really clever. It's inventive. There was a third Doctor Who film that she starred in called Pentagon West. That's probably the weakest of the group, but it's where she comes across the most like the McCoy Doctor. And then she finishes up with, I think, Broken Doors.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
where she regenerates. I've seen that one too.
And so this is extraordinary. This is a woman who's playing the Doctor through 4 half-hour episodes, and three of them are excellent. And there's actually, she's playing the Doctor through 2 of these episodes through what amounts to a gap in the real show, that 18-month hiatus when it's just gone. So in a sense, she's the Doctor of the gap. Yeah. And I think she's well earned some recognition. And there have been women doctors who played there have been other fan films that showcase women doctors, and they all turned in a good performance. Sharon Horton showed up in some 90s episodes called The Alliance. It's a 3-part serial. And, shot on low-end video, high school students and stuff. But again, good performance, good idea, good production. And they probably do more than the technology allows them to do. So they're trying to integrate CGI with live actors.
Oh, yeah, in the 90s, which was bad even at a professional level.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And a fairly intricate plot. And Horton plays a very deadpan but very solid Doctor. And then in the oddies, we have Lily Daniels, who plays the Doctor in the Ginger Chronicles, as a kind of hyperactive version of Matt Smith.
Which is saying something.
Oh, yeah. And right now, probably one of the most interesting fan film series out there is Velocity.
Okay.
Doctor Who Velocity. We have somebody called Crystal Moore, who is playing the Doctor. And what I love about Velocity is they're not conventional. They're little films, about 10 to 20 minutes long, are just full of subtext, and they're full of this wonderfully evocative and sometimes fascinating imagery. Sometimes they're really influenced by the 80s a lot. But to give you an example of something that does really good, they do an episode that's based around a Mexican female or Mexican woman poet. And within that, they go into dream sequences, which are, CGI, but very visual, very evocative, almost gorgeous to watch. And they're exploring, themes of misogyny, sexual repression, identity, art, and how it goes. And you're thinking, wow, that's a lot packed into, a 12-minute episode.
Yeah.
One of their fun episodes, they did a crossover with Tron.
Oh, okay.
The
well,
Doctor
that's,
goes into the
that's
Tron
saying
universe.
something.
And yeah, they get away with it. It holds up quite nicely. They did another episode based around these 1980s hand puppets.
Okay.
Gremlins kind of things.
Right.
It was a release from the 80s where they actually had these puppets that you could stick your hand in, had movable eyes, movable features, and all that. And so, they've consistently come out with really interesting, quirky, brilliant stuff. In the 1990s, when Doctor Who was gone, there was a group called Time Base. They were shooting on Super VHS or SVHS format, but they produced, I think, a dozen half-hour episodes comprising 5 stories. Literally, that was an entire season.
It
took them years to do, but one of them is a 4-episode thing with Cybermen, and this is back when Tomb of the Cybermen was found and re-released. Right. So they've recreated actual Cybermen costumes. They have like an army of Cybermen.
And that's before you could CG that.
Yeah, exactly. So these are real costumes they sat down and built. They have a 2-episode series serial where Doctor Who meets Shakespeare and Cthulhu, Lovecraft's guy, and that comes across. They've got a total of 5 stories that are and a bunch of shorts that are actually quite well done. And Rupert Booth was 26 or so when he started, and he carries it off extremely well. This is. I found myself watching it and thinking, wow, it's like I've discovered an entire lost season of Doctor Who with this guy with that was, professional level. And we still see interesting things now. There is a guy named Luke Newman, DW 2012 or 2012, DW 2012. He calls himself Dynamic Works 2012. But Luke is basically a one-man show from Birmingham.
Okay.
He was a kid who started off playing with like Doctor Who dolls. He would do his little action figure adventures and put them on YouTube.
Yeah.
You've seen those around.
I think I have, yeah.
Yeah. They're precocious and maybe not that great, but the thing is it was a learning experience for him. He was learning how to compose shots. So then he managed to get a friend together. He was building himself TARDIS sets. He, did his first ones as miniature. He did a full-size TARDIS set.
Oh, wow.
In cardboard.
Like that actors could walk around it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then he built a real one in a garden shed his parents bought for him, or he helped pay for it. And so from there, he's just started doing his this Doctor Who serial or series that he did. Devious. I'll shout out to Devious. That's the most extraordinary thing to me. Devious is a fan film production. It's been going on since 1991. And it was like, okay, so they shot it. They got John Pertwee involved in it. They built their own Daleks, and then they built more Daleks, and they built sets, and they had actors, and they had a really elaborate plot. And I was hearing about it for like decades. And in the meantime, there'd be these little things that popped up. If you know Curse of Fatal Death, their TARDIS set and their Daleks all came from Devious. Oh, okay. And the idea that they've got is that between Troughton and Pertwee, we see Troughton regenerating, but we don't see him regenerating into Pertwee.
Although somebody has done that now.
Yeah. Devious did that.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay, but Devious did that. Their idea was, in between these two regenerations, a bunch of evil Time Lords grab him, and they create like an intermediate Doctor. And this intermediate Doctor then goes on to a classic 6-episode serial. And they've got, people are involved in the old show for clips. They've got Cybermen, they've got a lot of Daleks, they've got like a really elaborate plot. And it's basically a wonder.
So you also covered stage plays, which happened during Doctor Who's run, but then afterwards, and they kind of and we'll just go from that to, you mentioned the one hiatus, and there's the big hiatus between classic and new. It's not even new anymore. But that was a time when A, these stage plays happened, and B, stuff that was, I guess you could call it semi-pro, Bill Bagg stuff, and various things like that kind of came in to fill the gap. So maybe you could address the Wilderness Years stuff. I mean, half the people, not half, all the people who came back to work on the show were fans, and probably some of them were involved in some way or another with this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll speak to the stage plays first. The first stage play was actually, didn't have Doctor Who in it. It was Curse of the Daleks back in 1965.
Right.
back when Dalek Mania was a big thing. And then in 1974, there was a stage play that was originally going to star John Pertwee called The Seven Keys to Doomsday.
Right.
And it was written by Terrence Dix. And, they did, Pertwee did allow his likeness to be used for some early effects. Probably the biggest stage play and the most interesting one was Doctor Who: The Ultimate Adventure.
Right.
1989, just as the show was going off the air. And it starred both Colin Baker and John Pertwee at different times. And the lovely thing about that is you can find it on YouTube.
Right, yeah.
It was just late enough in history that people had their camcorders and they could sneak one into the audience. And so there's at least 3 versions out there between the two doctors. And there's even an audio version featuring David Banks.
Right, yes.
Yeah, he played the Cyberman a lot, but he was an understudy. So for one episode when Pertwee was sick, he played the Doctor, and there's an audio version of that out there.
And that's probably why he's known for this, because that's the one that's out there,
Yeah. So what we had with stage plays, there's kind of still going on in the background. There's some people who've done some really interesting things. Empress of Otherwin, there was a Winnipeg version of Trial of Terror for the Fringe Festival.
Oh, okay.
And some of the actual Doctor Who people have been involved in these things, and I just like the idea of just putting it on stage. So there's some cleverness. There was a guy who did a trilogy of Doctor Who stage plays, and after he died, those scripts were left up online so anybody could use them. In terms of Bill Bagg stuff,
which has always struck me as not official, but kind of not official either. Like it was, yeah.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, the Bill Baggs and the Dreamwatch Bulletin stuff, the real-time video, I mean, they're fan films.
Yeah.
I mean, they're based on an economic model that doesn't really make sense, that doesn't really get them anyplace. But what happened with Doctor Who is that back when the show was coming, the approach to copyright by the BBC was very different. Originally, when they were making television, they didn't want to pay for lifetime rights. They didn't want to pay for all these rights. They just said, okay.
What would be the purpose of it?
Yeah, broadcast rights. Maybe 2 broadcasts, and that's it. And, then they had a tape that just went into storage. Now, for Doctor Who and a lot of other shows, the BBC could sell them internationally. So they kept the tapes around. But if it wasn't selling, they had no purpose. And part of it was legal. They didn't have the rights to show them anymore. Where did these rights go? Well, the rights were owned by the original scriptwriters.
Of course,
so,
1989,
Doctor Who goes off the air. People are waiting a couple of years. And then somebody gets an idea. They go, well, we can't use the Doctor, but maybe we'll go to Terry Nation or Robert Holmes and say, Robert, you created the Sontarans. Could we use them? And, well, Robert's a bad example. He died, so it was his estate. But I guess, Robert's estate or Robert's widow was going, well, my husband's not getting too many more gigs from the BBC, so if you want to pay me a few dollars to use the Sontarans, you just go right ahead. And so what you had were these weird Doctor Who spin-offs. So people were going, oh, okay, Sarah Jane's a character. Liz Sladen, we know her. She'd be willing to come in and do things. And so you had some really interesting productions. You had Shakedown, where the Sontarans are on the attack. And it features like a whole bunch of cast members from both Doctor Who and Blake Seven in new names or new identities.
Right.
A sequel with much more fidelity was Downtime, in which Sarah Jane Smith and her, what's her name, Victoria Waterhouse, the Troughton companion, get involved in a mystery involving the Great Intelligence and the Yeti, which also involves the Brigadier, Lethbridge Stewart. So you have all of these Doctor Who characters just playing, the actors playing their old characters coming back, and it's written by Mark Platt, who'd written a Sylvester McCoy serial. And, I think that the director there was also involved as a series director on the Doctor Who episodes. Mark Ayres, who was doing music, was involved in that one as well. And so in terms of the people involved, the cast members, the behind-the-scenes crew and stuff, the distinction between this and real Doctor Who
pretty thin.
is almost negligible. So you had this, and this is coming up in the 1990s, and a lot of it is It's legal, but essentially it's fan films. It's fan driven. It's people who are restoring or going for the best of this.
Was there any tie-in between the Bill Bagg stuff and Big Finish? Because it sounds like they're kind of running on parallel tracks, because they did fan tapings beforehand. Gary Russell did, and those guys.
Yeah.
But was there any sort of interaction between the two, or is it all just kind of they're just doing their own thing in their own time?
Oh, no, totally. This all springs from the same source.
Okay.
And it springs from the cancellation in 1985. Doctor Who gets canceled, and then it gets uncanceled, and it's put on hiatus for 18 months. During that period of time, Eric Soward goes to the BBC, and he does this 30-minute Doctor Who audio called Slipback.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Gary Russell, Bill Baggs, a few other guys were listening to it. They thought it was complete crap.
I think Gary might have told me that at one point.
Yes. So what they did was they decided to do their own. They called themselves the Audiovisuals Group, and they did their own fan audio adventure. And it worked well enough, they decided, okay, let's do this again, because we've learned some stuff with this process, and we'll keep on doing. Nicholas Briggs, who's now working for the Real series, got involved as well as the Doctor. And the Audiovisuals group, between, say, 1985 and 1990, produced about 26 episodes. And this is lo-fi stuff. They were recording on cassette tapes.
Yeah.
And their distribution was they'd go to fan clubs and, or mail order. And they would just mail out, audio tapes for people to listen to. Okay, so that's where it comes from. So, the audiovisuals wrap up around 1990. Bill Baggs still has the Doctor Who bug. The show is now canceled. They wait a couple of years to bring it back. And, Baggs knows that everybody from, the fan clubs. He also knows the doctors and the actors from the bars. And so he goes to them and says, well, while we're waiting for the show to come back, how about, we get together and make this little film, The Stranger. And it sells because it's legal. It's popular enough. And, there's even Colin Baker's going, this, I'm just playing the Doctor. We're just not saying it.
Yeah. Wink, wink. Yeah.
Yes, wink, wink. And so they just go on with this. And then, after about a year or two, Baggs begins to realize it's a lot easier to do audio than it is to make a film.
For the reasons, yeah.
So, so the BBV starts getting into audio as well as film and video. Now, Gary Russell and a bunch also get into the video. I think they're involved in Shakedown.
Right, okay, yeah.
Okay. And they meet a financing guy, and it's a giant pain in the ass. And the big lesson they learn from making Shakedown is don't make Shakedown. Don't make films, because it is a huge, incredible amount of effort. It takes a lot of organization. Yes.
Even saying low budget is not really low budget.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, here's where it kind of gets interesting. So after they did Shakedown, they decided they weren't going to make films anymore, but, maybe we'll do some audio. So they were going to do audio adventures. Now, Virgin Books had licensed Doctor Who, and they were doing like interim, an interim book series,
where a lot of the writers came from for the new series.
Exactly, the new Doctor Adventures. So that was where many of the writers came from, and it went really well. And the series, as it went on, just decided, well, we'll introduce a new character as a companion, Bernice Summerfield.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So then they lost the rights. Virgin Books lost the rights to do Doctor Who. But they had this new character that they own called Bernice Summerfield. So the old copyright thing, the characters that you create, the monsters that you create, you get to own, right? So Virgin is now in this position. So they started doing Bernice Summerfield books.
Who continues to be popular to this day, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so, Gary Russell and the new crew for Big Finish went to the BBC, and the BBC obviously was just not interested in licensing out Doctor Who.
Or of Doctor Who, period.
Yes.
At the time, yeah.
But they went to Virgin, and Virgin said, Bernice Summerfield, we're not doing anything with her. Yeah, sure, pay us some money, you can have her.
Yeah.
And so they began doing Bernice Summerfield audios. And the Bernice Summerfield audios were very successful. So eventually the BBC said, okay, you guys have proven yourself. You can do this. You're doing this in a really interesting way. The actors are all willing to come back. And, for the actors, again,
It's a gig, yeah.
It's a gig. Yeah. It's some paying money. There's no effort. You sit in the room and you recite your lines. Mm-hmm. And they knew all these guys from the bar or from conventions.
And they already knew their characters backwards and forwards, obviously. So,
obviously, yes. So it just lined up, and the BBC said, "Okay, you can have your license to your stuff, and the rest is history." Mm-hmm. Now, Bill Baggs still had the BBV, but the problem that Baggs had was that he just pissed off the BBC. So even though he was doing the Ronnie, even though he was doing Sontarans, he was doing all the other things, he just kept coming too close to the edge.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It was legal, but
yeah, to the point where they were going, we should maybe talk to our lawyers about this guy. Mm-hmm. So one of the rules, or one of the conditions that and this is rumor, by the way, that the BBC stipulated when they gave the license to Big Finish is, we don't want this Baggs guy ever involved. Mm-hmm. He's persona non grata. Just leave him out. Mm-hmm. And this whole Big Finish comes directly out of the audio visuals. Mm-hmm. Bill Baggs and the BBV came directly out of the audio visuals. Mm-hmm. And, you can just trace it all the way back.
Now, the show comes back, and that doesn't kill any interest in doing this. And technology is getting better by this time. Mm-hmm. So, I think nonlinear editing is, it's graspable at any rate.
Yes.
It's not quite there, but you can edit something on your computer at home. You've got better... we're in the DV era there, so it's easier to get video in. So I would assume that means a whole bunch of new stuff comes up. But there's new fans, so they have new perspectives on this stuff, too.
Oh, yeah. Technology has transformed things. And one of the interesting things about doing these books was just continually exploring this intersection between technology, how changing technology created opportunities for fans, how these opportunities for fans created and helped develop fan culture. Mm-hmm. And it just winds in and out, back and forth. So you go back to the original days of Super 8, and there it goes. But what's also pivotal is when VHS and Beta came along,
because you would distribute.
People could tape their own episodes off of television. They could trade them. Suddenly there were distribution networks, channels, communities. My first Doctor Who club, we were getting together just to watch episodes from England.
Yeah, we did that
on
too.
VHS. Yes.
They look like hell, but there was new Doctor Who.
But, this is interesting. So VHS was shaping fan culture, and VHS cameras allowed for an interaction, a new culture, for fan films. So you get to the modern era, and it's become so easy, not just like every aspect. We have camcorders now that literally fit in the palm of your hand.
I mean, your phone arguably is as good as anything we ever had.
Yes, your phone is just right up there. And, you can do your sound mixing, you can do your editing right on your computer. I mean, back in 1965, they were taking up their mother's bathroom with, all these little loops of
driving
film.
Driving her crazy,
just manually taping them together. And even in the 1990s, Rupert and the bunch were basically sitting with two Super VHS decks.
Yeah, I've done that myself.
Yeah.
It's excruciating.
And now you're just all doing it inside your laptop. You can do your sound mix inside your laptop. And so it becomes more and more accessible.
Like you in a section called The Green Screen Kids, about sort of the emergence of the, like Dominic Martin, the Purple Doctor, is one that I think of just because he's got a very distinctive costume and look. So,
yeah. The Dominic Martin Doctor is the second generation of DW 2012. And if you watch a couple, he's done some really amazing episodes. If you watch one of the last couple, he's got a Slitheen in it. It's professional quality.
Yeah. And it's CG, I assume.
No, it's real. It's
okay.
real.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently, they got part of it off of eBay.
Okay.
And then they just manufactured the rest they found some guy who was really good with foam rubber and stuff. And so you've got this Slitheen costume that's professional quality. They've done another episode with those clockwork androids.
Right, okay, yeah.
And
it's nothing to cry about either. Those
but again, really well done.
Yeah.
A lot of this has become more accessible. You can now go on the net and find plans to build your own TARDIS.
Right, yeah.
Like a TARDIS interior. And not just like, blueprints, but the measurements. So if you wanted to build one out of glass crystal, you could, because all the measurements, all the mathematics, the ratios there, and people are doing their own like homemade TARDISes too. Some of them are extraordinary.
I just want to do a shout out for Ben Pickles, who went from, I knew him before this because he's from Vancouver, but he did these very popular things where he'd composite together different footage of Doctor Who into, like, I think he mixes Sherlock and I think it was Matt Smith at the time together, and it got so noticed that he ended up doing the title sequence for the Capaldi years and effects on Jodie Whittaker's eras too. I think the entire regeneration sequence, and this is a guy who I remember seeing screwing around with After Effects in his living room, like, is doing the ending of Power of the Doctor, which is insane to think of, right?
Yeah, well, this is the beautiful thing. As the technology allows us to get closer, with creativity, with imagination, with a bit of effort, you can do things that are literally, approaching professional quality. A lot of these kids have actually put up green screens in their homes, in their living rooms or their garages, and they're compositing, computer CGI into their products. The level of accessible technology is just extraordinary.
And so finally, where do you see this going now? Like, we've got a whole new, Russell T Davies is back. It seems like Doctor Who's got a shot in the arm again. Do you think that's going to cause more fan films or different venues?
I think it'll cause more fan films. I think society changes. So I think the big wave of fan films was actually, in the 90s and early 2000s when Doctor Who wasn't around. And people who were fans and had this community that had formed around Doctor Who just decided to go out and make their own. I think the modern generation of fan films is people who are watching it and they're directly inspired. I think they're younger.
They're probably on TikTok rather than putting it on YouTube or something.
Yes, yeah. They're younger as a group, definitely. If you're watching now, you see like a lot of fan films that are like high schoolers or, late teens, and people who are shooting Doctor Who fan films in their backyard because they can't get their mother to drive them to the park.
Fair enough. Whatever. They're still shooting a fan film.
And they have this amazing access to the technology, so they can do it and get away with it. And they're often, much smaller groups. In the old days, in the 90s, you had, groups of like a dozen people coming together. You had people who were literal film crew.
Yeah. And now you don't need that.
No, now, a very small group, 2 or 3 people can put this together and get this out. Like I said, Luke Newman is almost a one-man show. And some of his episodes, like I said, just one person involved. He's been lucky to have kept on doing it and to discover good people who have, kind of gone on board with him, like Dominic Martin and Megan Shirley. For large parts of it, it's just that singular quest. Whereas if you look at, say, Rupert Booth or Barbara Benedetti, it's an actual production crew. There's writers, there's directors, there's, costume designers and stuff. So it's more intimate. You've got, it's more lo-fi now because you've got one person doing it or just a couple. And that means that, no, you're not going to get costumes designers or set builders or all of this. It's just there are fewer people, so they can't do everything. And so a lot of these films are oddly more accessible, easier to find now than ever before, but in some ways more amateurish. But again, there's a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of lousy films, of course, and that's with everything. There are terrible Marvel films.
Yeah, take your pick,
Yeah. But every now and then you can find somebody who's really doing something extraordinary.
Okay, and finally, if people are listening to this, I would assume they'd want to read these books. So where can they find them?
You can find them on Amazon or Smashwords Drafted Digital, on Google, on Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo. So basically on all the online platforms, and they're available as ebooks and as print books.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us.
This has actually been a real pleasure. I've enjoyed being able to talk about this.
Nice work, Warren. That was very interesting. Very interesting. Not only about fan films, but like about the the audio dramas, like the audio-visual dramas
Right,
from
yeah,
like,
yeah.
the mid-'80s, which it's fascinating that basically came about because Gary Russell and co. didn't like Slip Back. And so they decided to do their own audio dramas, and that basically launched Big Finish many years down the
which
line.
we're talking about now. We just talked about, well, I guess an hour ago for half hour, or however long this interview was. Yeah.
Yeah, so quite interesting stuff. Yeah. So there we go. Very interesting. All three of those books are available. Links in the show notes if you want to check those out. We've included the Canadian links because we're Canadian, and DG Valdron
And so is
Canadian.
DG Valdron.
And so is he.
Yeah, so there we go. CanCon strikes again, folks. Here on this podcast, as it always seems to do. So next week, as I said, we won't have anything about the. Maybe we'll put an insert, a quick insert, if something really major drops, and we'll have to post a second version of the episode. But from what I gather, I don't think too much Doctor Who stuff is going to be announced. But there will be a lot of interesting archive TV stuff happening at this Film is Fabulous convention. But hey, maybe by next week we might know more about when the BBC is going to air Doctor Who, or what Disney Plus is going to do with it. Maybe everything's going to happen on November 1st, and we'll have to wait yet another week. Who knows? But we will be here to talk about it, debate it, deliberate it, complain about it.
Oh, yeah, that part, last part for sure.
Every single week. So join us for that, won't you?
And laud it.
And laud it if they do the right thing. Like Spike Lee. All right, until next time, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren of Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com. Follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro. Subscribe to us on iTunes and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.